Hello, welcome to Adreno Brisbane. This is Trevor speaking, and today we're going to be touching on the different characteristics of the 16mm rubbers that we stock and sell in our shop, and what rubber will suit your purpose best. First, we will start with the standard everyday USA latex. This 16mm rubber has a decent internal diameter hole, normal amber rubber on the inside, and then just a standard black UV coating to stop it deteriorating from being in the sun as quickly. This particular rubber, as I'm sure you can't feel it being stretched, but I'll show you, is about a medium stretch. It's not super elastic, but it's not super soft. So you can still pull it and get quite a good reaction out of it without pulling it past where it's no longer elastic, getting no real advantage to stretching it past that point. This is a good mediumly priced rubber and will work for most of your standard spear guns, roller guns, that kind of thing, because you can still stretch it quite a bit, but it's not so soft that it's useless on a standard gun. Probably not useless, just we'll get to that later. The next rubber we're going to go through is a Rob Allen rubber. This is a slightly different internal compound used by Rob Allen and is quite a tight rubber and very punchy. So this is good with a heavy shaft on a standard gun, as you can cut the rubbers quite short and push that heavy shaft with a fair bit of velocity through the water. Not ideal for roller guns because you have to cut it longer in order to be able to load the gun, so you lose a lot of the effective power that you get out of it being a lot tighter and a lot punchier than what you would with using a smoother rubber. Next rubber we're going to touch on is just the standard latex. This doesn't have any UV coating, so it's nice and stretchy, very, very smooth, but because it's so stretchy, you'll find you'll have to cut your rubbers shorter in order to compensate for that extra elasticity. Also, because it doesn't have a UV coating, if you leave this sitting in the sun, it will deteriorate very quickly. The next one is the new Aimrite Pink rubber, which is seeming very popular, mostly with men, surprisingly. A lot of the Aimrite crew use this rubber and swear by it. It's got a slightly smaller internal diameter hole, so you do get a bit more latex than what you do with some of the other brands, and it has this lovely pink UV coating, which not only stands out, and no one will steal your gun, but stops it from deteriorating in the sun. Stretch-wise, this is similar to the USA latex, probably partially between the USA latex and the Rob Allen. It's still quite punchy, but if you do stretch it to its maximum limit, it won't overstretch because you just can't physically keep pulling it. I've heard good reports about the longevity of this rubber and it not losing its power too quickly, so all in all, it's quite a good rubber. And with the pink coloration, the rubbers will turn to a dull white once you get past about 10 meters deep, because the red light dissipates in water, or reflects off the top of the water, for a better word. The next rubber we will touch on is Salvimar Acid Green. Now this does have a smaller internal diameter hole, as well as a solid black rubber instead of the amber, and it's got about a 1mm thick UV coating. This rubber is incredibly stretchy, almost to a fault. If you're wanting to use it on a standard gun, you have to cut your rubbers to about 1/3 the length of what you would normally cut your rubbers to, as you can just keep stretching it and stretching it and stretching it and stretching it and stretching it. So as you can see, that 100mm can stretch out to past the length of my arm. So very good for roller guns if you're wanting smooth delivery of light shafts. If you put this behind a heavier shaft or a steel shaft, even on a roller, it just won't have the power I've found personally to push it along. But for a European style gun like a Pathos or Blu-Tech, anything that's running a thin stainless shaft that you want smooth delivery for shooting small fish accurately, it's quite a good rubber for that purpose. Now we're going to go to our Manisub rubber. This is a rubber I personally use, as I find it's the smoothest delivery of power to the shaft. It's not the most powerful rubber on the market. It has a slightly larger internal hole, and because of that, you don't get as much latex for the same diameter. It's also got about 1mm of UV coating, so it does deteriorate slowly, so it does last a long time, which is good. The upside I find with this rubber is it's very smooth in the power delivery, and it's not super tight, similar to what a Rob Allen would be. So you can still use this on any gun and you can throw anything from a light shaft to a medium shaft. You can just adjust accordingly with the amount of length of your rubber. It's also quite good on a roller gun as it's very smooth, so it doesn't put excess pressure on your roller, so you're not losing as much of your power being transferred in actually trying to turn the roller and come back down. Whereas some of the other ones that are very punchy, you'll find it's trying to jerk itself when it comes around the top, so you lose a bit of the propulsion that's going into your shaft. The reason that propulsion, you want to get as much propulsion into the shaft as possible, is purely because of the density of water. The lighter the object in water, the quicker it will slow down. So if you can get a heavier object with greater force behind it to push through that water, you'll have more power hitting the object that you're firing at the other end. So the smoother and more powerful you can get that delivery into the object that you're trying to fire, the better chance you'll have of penetrating the fish that you want to then take home and eat. To be perfectly honest, none of these are a bad rubber. No rubber is inherently bad or good. They all just have different purposes that you can use the different rubbers for. So if you were setting up a roller gun with a light shaft, you'd probably go something like the Salvimar Acid Green. If you were setting up just a standard everyday gun, just USA Latex or Rob Allen, something that you're just throwing it. If you're wanting a gun to throw, say, a standard railgun to throw an 8mm shaft, you'd probably want to go to Twin 16 Rob Allens, just to give you that initial punch to get the amount of load going. But if you're going to put a stainless shaft on that same gun, you'd probably want to look more towards the Mani Sub or the Amber, because it will be a smoother delivery of power to that lighter shaft, stopping the shaft from wanting to warp under its own weight. Hopefully this has helped you. If you have any other questions, feel free to call through to the customer service team. They'll be more than happy to run you through the different ways these rubber works. Otherwise, yeah, just send an email through and we'll write back to you and try and explain a bit more in depth. But that's just touching on some of the different points of these rubber, and hopefully you have a good time and we'll catch you on the water somewhere.